But thanks for tuning into episode 54, 55, something like that of Elk Talk Live. As always, brought to you by Bowtech right here, by Leupold Optics, by Onyx Maps. Use promo code RANDY and save 20%. And when you go out to onyxmaps.com, you can enter the sweepstakes to win a hunt with me for 2019 5-day rifle elk hunt. All the details are out there at onyxmaps.com. Again, if you purchase an app, use promo code RANDY and save 20%. Tight spot quivers, ripcord arrow rests, black gold sights, the whole family of products made right here in Montana. GoHunt.com right now is October 24th. You have 1 week left to sign up for the 30-day free trial by going to GoHunt.com/Randy. Make sure you put the /Randy there. And you get the 30-day free trial. I mean, it's a promo where you get to use the entire Insider. Same thing that we use for all of our research and tag applications. Go there and do it. And Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, you use promo code RANDY and save 15%. Go to RockyMountainHuntingCalls.com. And with that all out of the way, make sure that you text RANDY to 77453 if you want to be notified every time we're getting ready to go live. So, Saturday was the opening of the general big game rifle season here in Montana. Hey Dan, how's my audio?
Good.
Good? All right. So, we went up. Man, we were way the heck up in there. We took 12 llamas, me, cameraman Marcus, camera guy Michael, Lucas Burt from Leupold, and our buddy Bo Beatty, the guy who owns Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas, whose YouTube channel you should subscribe to, by the way. We went up there, went in on Thursday, started scouting. We didn't get in there till dark that night. Scouted all day Friday. And then Saturday morning, it was chaos. If you've ever been on a general unit in Montana for the rifle opener, things get a little bit busy. From the glassing knob we were on, me, Lucas, and Michael, we quit counting. I think we were to almost 30 other hunters we'd seen by noon that day, and we stopped counting. But Bo shot a bull. Lucas should have had a bull. And I was mostly just there for comic relief, I think, is probably the best way to say what I was there doing. But, so today, I'm wondering if we should talk about post-rut elk hunting. I'm looking at all of these questions. Why is my video not going the way it should here? Man, I get a lot of technical problems. All right, here we go. Now we're there. Oh, wait, am I? Am I? Huh. Let me see. You got me, Dan? Yeah.
Live stream?
Yeah.
Yep. And you're on your Facebook.
All right. So, I'm going to try and answer these questions. They go by so fast. Now I got it. But my video is paused. What's the deal there? Oh, there we go. I hit the wrong button, folks. Man. So Eric says, all right, Randy, I'm mad at you. You said Big Hank will be where no other hunter wants to go. Well, I climbed over 6,000 vertical feet and hiked over 15 miles. Big Hank wasn't there. Laugh out loud. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Eric. That's a bummer. I'm not sure how many vertical feet I put on the last 3 days, but it was a lot also. I didn't see Big Hank, but I did see a few bulls. And between three of us, we had 2 opportunities, so I felt pretty lucky. But it's just tough hunting. That's why these post-rut hunts from about October 15th to November 1st, that's why states that have general tags like Montana, to some degree Idaho, Colorado, to some degree Wyoming with when their general tags are, the reason they can do that is they push most of that hunting to the post-rut period. And I've said it many times, that is the hardest possible time to kill a mature bull elk on public land. And we proved it this weekend. A lot of hunters proved it this weekend. So sorry about that. Eric, but what should I say? Better luck next time, right? There's always, at least in Montana, we have a 5-week rifle season. So there's always next week, or usually next week. So what do we got for comments here? All right. Tim asked, Randy, I see you use a Mystery Ranch Metcalf. How do you clean the blood out of your load shelf? So Mystery Ranch pack, if you've seen our YouTube videos, you have your pack and your frame and your bag, and the bag actually comes detached from the frame and creates this big pocket. Well, when mine gets all bloody, I just take it down to the car wash with the power washer. Clean. Let it hang there and dry, and we are good. So, are we on Instagram today, Dan?
Yep.
What do I got to do here?
Are you on Fresh Tracks?
Yeah. What do I got to do?
Search.
Search?
Randy Newberg.
All right. See, this is why we have young guys here. Search. Randy Newberg Hunter. Oh, look at that. Following. Okay.
And hit the circle.
Hit the video do-jobby there, huh? No, that's a different one. Where's the circle? Oh, right there. It says live. Oh, what a country. Huh. Oh, it says the audio is really bad on Instagram. Let me try this. I don't know if that'll get any better, but it's just the problem with Instagram is we can't directly hook this. You see this lav mic right here? The most annoying part about TV is these lavalier mics. We can't plug it into the phone for Instagram. So what's the best way to approach opening day with all the people? We've done a whole bunch of stuff about hunting pressure and how to use it as your ally. That is what we did. We knew where there were low pressure places due to topography, due to closed areas, and we knew where all the pressure was going to come from. Well, the elk, kind of like water, they go from high pressure area to a lower pressure area. And we put ourselves in between where all the pressure would come from and where the elk wanted to go. And we probably could have filled all of our tags if we would have got more serious about it. But I was mostly just there having a good time. So, best advice, second rifle elk season in Colorado. Prepare for a lot of hunting pressure and know that the elk are going to head for cover after the first day. Colorado has a lot of, I think their busiest over-the-counter season is the second rifle season. So, can't find elk anywhere. You know what? That's been a tough season. When you think about how warm it's been this fall, at least in Montana and in the Northern Rockies, and when I was in Wyoming, it was New Mexico, it was really, really hot. If there's been a common theme this year, it's people saying how hot it's been and how hard it's been to find elk, and I would agree with you. Let's see, do elk like pines or aspens once they go into sanctuary mode? It depends. Whatever's growing in that sanctuary. My experience is that they have a tendency to prefer the edges of darker timber, not these big expanses of dark timber, but it's just what I've found. Usually in that really rocky soil and some of these deep, dark places they like to go, a lot of times dark timber grows better than aspens, but if you can find aspens in a really, really good sanctuary, they'll be in there also. The type of vegetation does not drive which sanctuaries they prefer. Do I have a lot of elk come in silent? Sometimes. I wouldn't say a lot. Typically, how far apart will the cow herd and the bulls be? Usually not very far apart. I'm looking for cows, but nobody really talks about hunting cows. We talk about it a lot. Food. So think about this time of year, right? In the Northern Rockies, I'll just use that as an example, but apply this same principle anywhere. You have a lot of snow up high right now. We got early snow in, I think, October 4th or 5th, something like that, and it's a lot of snow up high. The bulls will still stay up there. The better feed is down lower. The cows don't want to have to fight through that crusted snow to get to the feed. So they're going to be looking for grasses in the Northern Rockies for the most part. The forbs have all dried up. So you have to find the best food on the mountain. That's where the cows will be. Now, if you were in Nevada, the cows may not be on grasses. They might be on juniper berries. They might be on something else. It just depends on where you are at. You have to know what the major food source is, the preferred food source in the place you're hunting. Wherever you find that preferred food source is where you're going to find the cows year round. And the reason that is a cow is either always lactating or always incubating. There's never a time when a cow is not concerned about its current calf or the calf it's going to have next spring. And that's why food is so primary for cows. This weekend in the area we were hunting, it was open to cow elk hunting. And I saw a lot of cow elk, but they were all in different places than bulls. Very few of the cow herds had a bull with it. Most of the bulls were single or in groups of 2 or 3 because they're in that post-rut mode. The bulls are going away. They're making a living off real marginal feed. They know they're the ones getting shot at the most. The cows, they'll expose themselves to a little more risk and a little more danger because one, they usually aren't subject to hunting pressure as much, and they need the best food they possibly can get. So, has this live feed stopped or is it just me? Someone's asking, have we stopped, Dan? I don't think so. So this guy, here's a good example. Rick says the cows are slamming the elderberries in the area he's hunting. So in Montana, it's grasses. Where he's at, it's saying elderberries. There's no standard preferred food from Montana to southern New Mexico or from Colorado out to Oregon. Every habitat type has a different preferred food source. So you just have to make sure you understand what that primary and preferred food source is in the area you're at, and that's where you're going to find them. Randy, when are you going to write that book? You know, the manuscript is there and I filled some of it in, but I haven't touched it for about 2 years. And I don't think anyone would buy it anyhow. And probably, oh man, that'd probably be a project of wasted time. All right. Dalton Gray says, Randy, I'm looking at picking up one of the new Holo rifles. What caliber bullet combination would you recommend for an all-around big game hunting rifle? Probably a 308 or a 30-06. I'm partial to a 308. But some would argue a 270. Some would argue a 7mm. Any of them are good. Use premium bullets. The rifle I reach for, if it's all around, where I don't know if I'm going to find elk or deer on this hunt, is my 308, and in my 308 I shoot either 168 grain Nosler E-tips or I shoot 165 grain Nosler partitions. All of my 308s have a VX5 HD Leupold scope on them. 2 of them I think have a 2-10 and the others have a 3-15 on it. So you couldn't go wrong, Dalton, if you went with 308, 30-06, 7mm, 270. They're all really good all-around cartridges. So let's see. Oh, someone said you weren't dead, or your feed wasn't dead. I just had to restart my phone. Oh, let's see. Howdy from New Mexico. Howdy from New Mexico. Stacy Smith, just wanted to say thank you for the Hunt Talk podcast with the 2 wildlife biologists who talked about CWD. So, if you don't know, we produce 2 podcasts in addition to this Elk Talk Live. I have my own podcast called Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio, and then me and Corey Jacobson of Elk 101, we produce another podcast called Elk Talk, and that one's brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Stacy was talking about chronic wasting disease, CWD. We did a really big piece about CWD. I had 2 of the premier scientists who study this. That's what their PhD was about. And they put to rest a lot of the barstool myths and backseat biology. I'm glad you liked it. Charles says, Randy, I purchased my Marcus Public Lands t-shirt. Thanks, Charles. So I can't believe I didn't wear it. Dan, are you wearing your Marcus t-shirt?
No,
oh, man. So, he's wearing our land or public land t-shirt. So go to onxmaps.com, and we're selling t-shirts for Marcus the Public Land Llama. It's a joint project with Leupold and Onyx, two of the people who make this possible. And all of the profits from the sale of those t-shirts are going to get donated to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation so that they can have extra money to use towards some land access project. How cool is that, huh? So I hope we sell a lot of t-shirts. We must have sold a lot because a lot of them are already out of stock. They told me the first day that they were overwhelmed with how many they thought they were going to sell. Let's see. Do I shoot an infield 0 when I arrive at my hunting spot? In other words, when I get there, do I shoot to make sure my scope or whatever has not been bumped? I usually don't. Usually I go to the range and I take meticulous care of my rifles. Dan has seen my rifle scabbards that I have on the back seat of my seats in my Nissan Titan. We did a seat cover video with Headwater seat covers out here in Three Forks, Montana, and he builds these scabbards right into the back of your seat, and it protects your rifles very, very well. So I really don't worry about it that much. Now, if I had a shot that was like way off, then I'd be worried about it. But I've not had that before. Let's see. Do you use the same hunting round when you're sighting in? Where did that one go? Or just a lower cost bullet in the same grain? No. When I'm sighting in and dialing in, I am using the same exact ammo that I'm going to be hunting with. If you try to use a less expensive ammo, you're going to, usually the primers are different, so that's why it's less expensive. The powders are different, which is why it's less expensive. It's going to perform differently in your rifle, even if it's the same bullet that's being pushed out of that cartridge. I always sight in with the ammo you intend to shoot while you're hunting. So, Sean asks, what do I carry in my backpack? If you go out to our YouTube channel, Randy Newberg Hunter, we do a lot of bag dump videos out there, and that's where you can see most of it. We should do a few more of them. We upgrade our gear set every so often. Chris asks, have I experienced trichinosis in game meat? I have not, but a lot of people have, and that's part of the reason why I don't eat bear meat until I get it checked for trichinosis. Montana, it used to be free. Now you have to pay to get it checked. But I get it checked. The other thing is you can cook it really well. Over 160 degrees, I believe, kills trichinosis. But then the meat starts getting tougher and drier. So it's a little bit of a trade-off there. Boy, there's a lot of them here. How many coolers do you need for one bull elk? We did a YouTube video on that one also. It's out on our YouTube channel. But I can usually get a boned out bull elk in an 80 and a 60, 85 and a 65. I prefer two 65s and an 85, so I have room for way more ice. And it just allows for more ice allows for keeping the meat away from home for a longer period of time. So let's see. Are elk moving down to private in this post-rut period to get away from pressure? Very possible that they can. They go to places with less pressure. A sanctuary a lot of times is private land. We think about public land sanctuaries where distance or topography creates a sanctuary. But other sanctuaries can be borders and boundaries. It can be a boundary between a limited entry unit and a general unit. It can be a boundary between a unit that's currently closed versus a unit that's open. It can be state boundaries. It can be whatever. So yeah, pressure could push them to private at this time. It happens a lot, especially here in Montana. One of the reasons is in Montana, and like a lot of western states, in the areas in the west, which is mostly our elk country, most of the public land is the high ground and the private land is the lower valleys. Well, weather and hunting pressure push the elk lower, so they end up on the private ground. Very, very common in the rifle seasons, which is why I tell people, if you come to at least Montana, maybe a couple other states, if you want to find more elk on the public ground, come and hunt in archery season. They're still there. Let's see. Kenny Stevens says, hey, Randy, what kind of vacuum sealer do you like to pre-package those meals you use at your camp? I have a Food Saver that is so old, if Food Saver ever saw it, they would put it in their archive, their museum. I believe I bought it in 1992, 93, 92, I think. And I'm still using it. So what's that, 26 years later? I have no idea. It's crazy. I had no idea it would last that long. Let's see. Let's see. Ton of people ask about a 6.5 Creedmoor. I have two of them. They're not my preferred elk cartridge. It'll kill an elk, don't get me wrong, but it's not my preferred elk cartridge. Now, antelope or something else, deer, yeah, it's a great cartridge. So, let's see. Who is the best pack mule besides Marcus the llama? Marcus the camera guy. Marcus the camera guy carries a heavier load than anybody I know. What do you do at midday? Would glassing aspens or other semi-open areas be a productive thing to do? There are no burns in my unit. I go to wherever I think the elk might have bedded, whether it's in a canyon, whether it's on the edge of where dark timber meets a burn, whatever. I try to get some place where I can look into that, and I glass, and I nap, and I glass, and I nap. And usually me and a camera guy or me and a guest hunter, we take turns glassing. And odds are you're not going to glass anything from the inside of your tent. I'm waiting for that to happen someday, but we just keep doing the rotation and glassing. And every once in a while, an elk will get up in the middle of the day to grab a little bite to eat or to go to the bathroom or whatever. I don't know. Elk probably don't call it a bathroom, but you get the point. Oh gosh, there are so many comments here. Holy smokes. When will Kyle Lamb and I get together again? I don't know. I hope soon. Kyle and I, every year we try to plan a hunt, but our calendars are so busy, we never get a chance to do it. So, let's see. Let's see. Mark says, elk don't actually bed down midday. They physically disappear from the earth somehow. It sure seems that way sometimes, doesn't it? Why do you not hunt south slopes? Because elk are seldom on south slopes in the seasons I have. In archery season, maybe in the morning they'll be on a south slope, but it's usually too hot. This time of year, they're seldom on a south slope because the south slopes are usually the most bare and open, and they know they got to be in cover to not get shot. So south slopes are usually the last place I'm going to look. Now, so if you think this is a south-facing slope and it wraps around over to the east, so you got a southeast with some scattered timber, I might be glassing there. I might go over to the southwest where there's some scattered timber. I might be glassing there, or even straight west or straight east-facing slopes. But the south slopes, I've never had very much luck seeing anything on those. All right, Tony asks, how did your bow tech do on your bison hunt? We talked about that on the last Elk Talk Live. My Realm, one shot at 43 yards, thump, arrow went right in here, right behind the front shoulder. He's slightly quartering away. Broadhead stuck in that shoulder blade, and when he took off running, he broke the full metal jacket arrow. It popped out. And that's all it took. And we had a bison on the ground. So every bit of it, the whole setup worked exactly to perfection. The realm is, I shoot 29-inch draw length. My total arrow weight is about right at 500 grains. I have a Carter Quickie release. What else? I got my tight spot quiver, ripcord rest. My black gold sight, I only have 20, 30, and 40 yard pins on my black gold sight. It's an Ascent sight that has the slider. I don't really even use the slider. I have it for the safety net that if I hit an animal and it was still out there further, I could slide it and roll it up to a longer distance, but that setup worked really good. And to think that it was only set at 60 pounds, a lot of people said, oh man, I don't know about that. Yeah, the bison didn't know about it either. Let's see. Oh gosh. How far is too far to hike in if you plan to hike out with the meat? 3 to 4 miles? Depends on if it's 3 or 4 miles like this or 3 or 4 miles like that, how much shape you're in or what kind of shape you're in. I think the furthest we've ever shot one that we hauled out on our backs was 5 miles. So those are 10-mile round trips. And we were wore out. Definitely wore out. That was in our pre-llama period. This last weekend when Bo shot that bull, we were in 6 miles. And let's see, McShane, Marcus, and James were the 3 llamas who carried the bull out. And actually it could have been done with 2 llamas. McShane carried, I think he had 90 pounds. James had 120 pounds and Marcus had the rest of it, which was, Marcus is the youngest of the llamas, so he gets a little bit of a break. You don't want to load him up too much when they're young. He's only 3. Most of the other llamas are 8, 9, 10 years old. So, Rod Huffnagel, how you doing, buddy? You could say this, RJ. Randy, you look like Al Bundy when you're drawing your imaginary bull. Oh, Rod, you're funny. Oh, haven't seen you for forever. What about wallows this time of year? Nope. I don't hunt wallows this time of year. Maybe they work, but I don't. At least not in the Northern Rockies where I'm hunting right now. Are you able to convince your wife to go hunting with you? She used to hunt a lot. And then when my son got to be 12, she said, all right, now you got your hunting partner. And then she didn't hunt very much after that. So I could convince her. She says next year we're going to Wyoming pronghorn hunting together. But she said I have to film it myself because she doesn't want camera guys there filming her. They might catch her at an off moment. So would you consider or recommend bugling now at this time of year? No, I wouldn't. I think it'd be probably a waste of time. Some people might disagree. I mean, 2013, my son Matthew and I, we shot a pair of bulls out of a herd in eastern Montana on Halloween, so October 31st, and they were bugling like crazy, but I don't think that would have had anything to do with me calling or if I would have been bugling. It was all about just the fact that there was 1 or 2 late season cows in that, or late cycle cows in that big herd, and that was enough to get them excited. Let's see. A lot of questions here. Let's see. Roy says, for a first-time elk hunt, is there an easy-to-draw or over-the-counter cow elk tags in an area with really high success rates? Any suggestions on a certain area of a certain state? I would say there are none that are easy to draw or over-the-counter that have super high success rates. Usually there's a correlation between the higher the success rate, the lower the draw odds. But if you look at the leftover list in Colorado, it's out there. You can go to Colorado Parks and Wildlife. There's a lot of leftover cow tags there right now, and some of them are in areas that have, for cows, have pretty good success rates. And by pretty good, I say 30 to 40%, which is really good. What brand of broadheads do I use? We talked about that on the bison hunt last 2 weeks ago. I use bone broadheads. I use a 125 grain bone broadhead. The camera angle there is way more flattering than the Instagram angle. Yeah, that's because we got the Instagram phone right down here. You can thank the production crew for that. And if I find a bachelor group of bulls, will they stay in the same general area? If they aren't pressured, as a general rule, yeah. That's been my experience. If there is timber feed in sanctuaries, will the bulls stay in or still move to open ridges to feed? If there's feed down in that sanctuary, they're going to feed right there. Finally, Keith kindly asks, those of you who saw the promo for this on the Facebook page, and Michelle, my social media person, said, guess what I'm eating or not eating? What we were eating were oysters, Henry Mountain oysters, off the bison I shot. Those oysters were about, each of them about that big around, shaped about like that. How were they, Dan?
Surprisingly good.
Dan said surprisingly good. So those were bison oysters that we had. And it was interesting. I ate it, but I'll admit the texture and flavor didn't do anything for me. But that might be because my expectations for bison are really high. Every piece of wild free-range bison I have ever eaten, it was fantastic. So maybe I just was too worked up about it and didn't meet my expectations. Let's see. What is more important, scent or camo? Scent, as in playing the wind scent, is most important by far for me. Sean asks, how much do you charge to guide people? We don't guide people, Sean. We do all self-guided on your own hunt, so we don't do any guiding. Have I ever considered using a lightweight wood-burning backpack stove? I have. I've considered it, but I've never done it. Tony asks, what did I do with the bison hide? Well, I shot a bison in 2013. You can see that hunt out on our YouTube channel. And on that one, I kept the bison hide. I mean, it's monstrous. In this one, a friend of mine, Ray White from Colorado, joined us on this hunt. And I told him, you can have that hide because I've already got one. And he's like, really? You'll give that to me? I'm like, Ray, you're such a great guy. You've been so much help. It is yours. So that's what we did with the hide of it. But we kept, when people see this video, Dan, when is the bison hunt going to go live on YouTube?
Monday.
Monday. We're going to start the bison hunt live on next Monday on our YouTube channel. Randy Newberg Hunter is where you can find that. We've got the whole hunt, and then we've got the processing of the bison. And when you see every little piece of everything we kept, yeah, you saw that we kept the oysters, the tongue, the caul fat, the liver, the kidneys, the heart, and every bit of meat is crazy. The head, the cheek meat. I mean, on a bison, everything's so big that what normally you wouldn't bother, taking a little bit of meat out of here. With a bison, it's a piece of meat that big and that thick. So I think people will find that to be worthwhile. All right, JR, you were there. He said, well, there goes next week. Oh, JR Young, he was on the hunt with us, and that guy, he professes to be an amateur chef. I think he's a professional chef. Someone asked, when do the bulls leave the cows? Right now. They are leaving the cows right now, except in areas with no or low hunting pressure right now. You'll still see some bulls hanging with cows this late and even into the end of the month. But in public land areas where there's a lot of pressure, those bulls, if they haven't already left the cows, they're in the next few days, they're gone. Yeah, you'll see some spikes or maybe some young raghorns with them, but right now in post-rut mode, that is where they're going. They're going to get away from the pressure, and they want to just be left alone, get through another hunting season, and as they say, live to fight another day. So, David asks, how do you tell if tracks in snow are fresh or not? It's pretty easy. If they have a really crisp edge to them, the odds are they're fresher. Now, if they get melted out, you can tell, oh, that's pretty melted out. If you have crust on the snow, so let's say you got that much crust and then it's always kind of grainy underneath. If the crust has a firm edge to it and the grainy stuff underneath is still grainy, that's a pretty fresh track. So a lot of it just takes a lot of time, a lot of practice. How did the Nissan hold up on the weight and trailer in the bison hunt? Man, it was just boom. And when you see how we just about sunk that thing, sunk it, drove it across a flooded canyon with fully loaded, I mean, loaded to the gills, the current pushing me downstream with a 4-horse trailer loaded with hay and food and all kinds of water and other stuff, and me smash into the bank on the other side. That's a good sales pitch for a Nissan Titan right there. I just wish that the camera guys wouldn't have been so busy trying to rescue the llamas and they could have filmed it all. But it was more important that we get the llamas to safety than it was anything. So, Rob asks, in the third rifle season in Colorado, any sense of calling of any kind? Not any sense that I can think of. I think it'd be a waste of time and you'd probably bring in more hunters than you would elk. Myron says, hey, I'm going to be in Missoula in 2 weeks. How's the weather? Hot. Brecken asks, at what range do you sight your zero for your scopes? For everything but my 6.5 Creedmoor, it's 100 yards. And I have CDS dials on my Leupold scope, so I zero it at 100, and then I just spin the dial from there. My 6.5, I zero it at 200 yards. So, how do you know what is the best food source? You have to do your research. Hey, let me see. Is that Anita Lewis? Hey, Anita, how you doing? But as far as the best food source, you need to go to websites. Google is your friend. You need to go and read the studies about elk and vegetation in the area you're hunting. I've said it many times, the book by Jack Ward Thomas, Elk Management and Ecology or whatever, it's 962 pages. I just looked it up today. You can get it from the Wildlife Management Institute for $43 or something. It goes into so much detail about preferred elk forage in many different locations, and it's based on what is giving them the best nutrition. Because nutrition is what keeps cows producing calves. So if I was, that's how I learned about what elk foods are. And I still don't know what the preferred elk foods are everywhere I go. But when I draw a tag in a unit I've never been to, that summer in June, July, August, I am researching everything I can to know what the preferred food sources are there. Usually the BLM or the Forest Service or some university or the state game agency have done studies about what their elk prefer as forage. And then I know, all right, this is what the study says is preferred. What type of places, whether it's elevation, whether it's some type of slope with shade, where does that food grow? And those are the places I start looking. So, are you applying for any eastern states for elk? Kentucky every year. Hey, Rach, how you doing? But I never draw in Kentucky. So, Richard, still no elk in the coolers. We are in trouble as the beer has run out. Richard is a guy on our Hunt Talk website forum. He comes over from the UK elk hunting every other year. and I loan him some coolers. He's a great guy. Hunttalk.com. You can always read Richard's stories out on our forum. Let's see. What's the blizzard of the month for October at the Dairy Queen? I don't know. I haven't been to Dairy Queen. When's the last time we did Dairy Queen, Dan?
On the way to New Mexico.
On the way to New Mexico. It was in early September. Man, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to lose my Dairy Queen double diamond pin there if I don't get with the program. Are elk feeding at night because it's a full moon? Very possibly. That they move a lot more in a full moon at night than they will the rest of the lunar periods. Let's see. I'm trying to share a little bit of everything here. We got any on the other ones, Dan?
I had one. Somebody keeps asking about your first bull elk.
Someone wants to know about my first bull elk. My first bull elk was shot in southwest Montana. It was my 6th season of shooting nothing. I was so bad. I was the worst elk hunter, might still be the worst elk hunter that ever landed in Montana. But I did everything wrong for so long. And finally, what I did, I said, all right, Randy, how can you be hunting this hard and not kill a bull elk? I said to myself, you can catch walleyes. I grew up walleye fishing. It was what I did my whole life. How can you catch walleyes pretty much any place you go, different times of year, different environments? You seem to be able to catch walleyes with no problem. What's your strategy there, and how does that apply to what you're not doing to kill elk? And what I found is when I fished walleyes, I knew their seasonal periods. And I knew that when they were spawning in April, they were at a different water temperature, a different depth, everything else, than when they were out on the deep humps in late July, because they had different needs. So that's where I came up with my idea of breaking the elk season into 5 calendar periods. All right, I'm hunting in late October is when it was. What are the elk doing then? Well, they're in this post-rut mode. All right, where do I find a sanctuary? So I went and found this spot I thought was a sanctuary, went and sat on a rock, actually fell asleep that morning. I mean, the rock, it was this big rock, about 10 feet across, faced southeast, and when you laid on it, on those cool mornings, and it heated up right away, you couldn't stay awake. I'm laying, and I heard a noise. I'm like, what was that noise? And here comes a bull elk, heading to his sanctuary with a cow. Boom. After that, I started saying, well, what time of year am I hunting? What is the need? Where are they going to go to fill that need? And I've killed a lot of bull elk since then. So it was kind of that aha moment for me of, you know what? Treat it just like you treat fishing. Know that they're going to be in different places to satisfy whatever the need is at that time. And you guys have heard me talk about these 5 periods time and time again. And the reason I say that is it's the simplest way I've figured or found to somehow determine where I'm going to find elk. Because the number one reason I usually don't kill an elk is because I can't find them. And the reason I can't find them is I've not done my homework to understand what their need is at the time I'm hunting them. And that's just the way that I do it now. So, Randy, turn up the volume. I'm sorry I can't on this thing. It is what it is. I appreciate everyone following along. Oh, I think this guy's got some really crank questions. I think we're going to have to pass on some of those. We'll go over here. Let's see. How about a show where you take someone hunting in a state that doesn't have the numbers like Montana and show how to hunt smart like in Washington State? The reason, and this gets back to someone asked earlier, why don't we hunt in Washington State? Because our platforms, we want to show people where the best opportunities are on public land for whatever species it is for the traveling hunter. And unfortunately, Washington has a couple things going against it for non-resident hunters. It's pretty crowded. It's got shorter seasons. The quality of the hunt, just the total experience, unless you can draw one of the limited entry tags, is not what you can find in other states. And to apply for the limited entry tags is expensive. So I hate to say it that way, but that's probably why you'll never see us in Washington. Guys who kill elk in Washington on a regular basis are serious elk hunters, no doubt about it. But we'll probably not be there. Let's see, Randy, in your opinion, what is the easiest and hardest state to elk hunt? I think the hardest places in the world to elk hunt would be northern Idaho or northwest Montana. And those are just places I'm familiar with. Some would argue, oh no, the coasts of Oregon and Washington, and that might be the case, but I've never spent any time there, so I can't add that to the formula. And then the easiest places, well, I'd probably say Utah because they let you rifle hunt in September. Where else? Places that don't have a lot of pressure, where they're really, really conservative with tags, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. Those states probably have some of the, and I don't know if easy is the right word, but the opportunity, it's easier to find bull elk and easier to find quality bull elk on public land in those places than it is where there's a ton of hunting pressure in Idaho, Oregon, Montana, Colorado, Wyoming. So let's see. Let's see. Any good non-resident tags for a disabled handicap elk hunt? Yes, New Mexico. Down there they call them MI, mobility impaired hunts. Their best units in the state have seasons before, it's after archery, but before the rifle guys get there, they have mobility impaired hunters out in the field. New Mexico does more for MI hunters, mobility impaired hunters, than any state I know of. They let you hunt the best units in the rut with a rifle. Hard tag to draw, but if you draw, you're going to have a great, great time. What is your choice of boot hunting in the mountains in cold temperatures? I have Kenetrek non-insulated mountain extremes. I have the new mountain guide that I wore this weekend. When it got down in the mornings, it was probably down in 18, 19 degrees. And I have a pair of 400 gram mountain extremes. But I'm one of those people who, I'm changing socks continually. I don't wear my boots to the trailhead, so my feet don't get sweaty. When I'm driving in my rig, I got my Merrill Mocs, my old guy shoes on. And I don't put my boots on until I'm ready to get on the trail. That way my feet don't get sweated up in the truck. So I've got a lot of ways to keep my feet warm, and I can get by with my non-insulated Kenetrek Mountain Extremes down to 0 degrees. So I know some people say, ooh, I couldn't do that, but I think if you had a chance to experiment with ways to keep your feet dry, you'd keep your feet a lot warmer also. Let's see. How do you reconcile not taking a most likely doable shot on a nice bull? I tried patience this year and waited out a 445-yard shot, hoping it would become 300. If I don't have that feeling, whether it's bow, like you'll see in the bison hunt, one day I passed up a shot that I just didn't have that, this bison's dead feel. You know, you just have that feeling that when I release this arrow or pull this trigger, that animal is done. If I don't have that feeling, it's not a matter of distance. Distance is part of it, but it's conditions. It's how windy is it? It's have I been exerting myself where I'm huffing and puffing? Well, when I released the arrow the next day, same exact distance within a yard, that day, I absolutely had that feeling of when this arrow is released, that animal is done for. So how do I reconcile that? I reconcile it by I want to make sure that I absolutely feel perfect, or as close to perfect as I can. So, boy, we get asked this a lot, and the question is the same. How do you manage scent control when you have multiple camera guys hunting with you? The same way I manage it when I'm hunting alone. I have to use the wind. I cannot in any way, shape, or form mess with the wind. If you I don't care who you are, where you're hunting, whether it's rifle or bow, if you don't use discipline in the wind, you may as well just give it up. And so Dan here, he doesn't stink real bad, but I do. It doesn't matter. If you're playing the wind right, you could be like Pigpen on the Charlie Brown and Snoopy Hour, and they wouldn't smell you if you use the wind to your favor. So I can't tell you. Hey, Sam in Blue, how you doing? I can't tell you how important it is to absolutely pay attention to the wind. So, let's see. I've been seeing. So, well, there's so many of them scrolling fast. Someone's asking why we don't hunt more in Alaska. Well, we do hunt a lot in Alaska. This year we hunted black bears up there in May, and then we hunted Sitka blacktails in August and Dall sheep in August. So 3 a year, that's quite a few. Do I use heated insoles? Nope, I don't. Just more headache to deal with, and they will cause your feet to sweat. And when your feet sweat, evaporation eventually happens, and evaporation causes I always say 5 times. Someone told me it's even more than that. 5 times the amount of heat loss. The rate at which heat escapes is 5 times greater due to evaporation. So I'm doing anything I can to keep the heat, or keep the sweat, the moisture away. That's why in my pack, I carry a fresh pair of socks. When I get up to the hill, a lot of times, I don't care how cold or windy it is, I will take my boots off. I'll stand on my gaiters so I don't stand in the snow. And I'll let my boots air out, get some of that heat and some of that moisture out, and I'll put a brand new, fresh pair of socks on. And that's what I'll use the rest of the day. I'll take those other wool socks, I'll hang them, let the wind blow on them, let them dry out, and I will rotate socks as often as I have to keep my feet warm. 6-day deer hunt, cheap meal recommendations. We did a video on that out on our YouTube channel. We make them at home. We put them in food saver bags, freeze them, take them with us, throw them in our Orion cooler. When we get to camp, we pull them out of the cooler, throw them in a pot of boiling water. They boil for about 10 minutes. Cut the food saver bag open, dump it on a plate, and just like home-cooked meals. And Randy, for Eastern hunters, if successful, what's the best and cheapest way to transport meat back home? The best and cheapest is to have high-quality coolers and throw it in your truck and get home. Now, if you fly, there is no cheap way. And just that simple. If you fly and you have a game processor take care of your meat, you're going to be paying through the nose to get that meat shipped home, because very seldom can they turn it around and get it to you and have it there in time cheaply. Facebook says something went wrong, Dan. Says we're having trouble playing this video.
You're still up over here.
Really? What did I do? Great.
Old computer.
That figures. I'm going to have to get rid of this Lenovo piece of, well, I wonder how many people out there watching are Mac users versus PC users. I've had more problems with this PC than I can imagine. I'm tired of it. All right. Do you think that good camo really helps hold in human scent? No. Camo is not about anything related to scent control. Camo is all about breaking up your outline. That's what camo is for. It has nothing to do with scent control. Do I ever hunt birds? Oh yeah. We don't film it. We've filmed some bird hunts down in Arizona, some dove hunts, some quail hunts. But most of my bird hunting is grouse when I'm out elk hunting. Well, let me restate that. When I'm out when I'm out grouse hunting, occasionally I try to shoot an elk. That makes sense? But I do a lot of duck hunting. When my son comes home for Christmas, we definitely try to do some duck hunting. Have you used your new Mystery Ranch pop-up backpack? I've not. I need to, though, but I haven't yet. So, what's better, wild pheasants or wild grouse? Whew, boy, that's a tough question. What do you think, Dan?
Pheasant.
Really? I'm partial to rough grouse, so that'd be a hard one to say for sure. Yeah, that'd be tough for me to have to say one way or the other. Randy, have you ever hunted near Missoula, Montana? No, I have not. Why am I losing my Facebook connection so much? All right. Hey, Josh, how you doing? You said the grouse in northern Minnesota were pretty good this year. I hope you're going to send me some. Be nice to my cousin, Carrie. I know you will be. Thoughts on a 6.5 Creedmoor for elk? Like I've said, it'll kill elk, but it's not my preferred choice. I want something that's going to give me more options based on shot distances, shot angles. And every time I say that, 20 guys will chime in and say, oh, well, I saw a YouTube video, they shot a bull elk at, 700 yards with a 6.5 Creedmoor. They may have. It just, it will kill elk, no doubt about it. But I think if you talk to most elk hunters, they're going to grab for something maybe in a 2.84, a 7mm, or a 30 caliber. So let's see, Josh Schaefer, thought on the Durfee Hills in central Montana. Go to our YouTube channel. We've hunted it 5 times. A lot of fun. I like it. I haven't hunted it since 2014, though. Wow, we're getting a lot of... I shouldn't have asked the thing about Mac versus PC. I can't believe I ask you guys some of the dumbest questions. I really appreciate everybody being good sports about it, but I'm just not that quick on the draw. So my technology officer is my son, who has an undergraduate degree in computer engineering. Let's see. My favorite wet and cold clothing. My elk hunting uniform is my... we did a video on this when we were out last weekend because it was cold. We were at 9,800 feet. The wind was blowing. It's my Sitka Timberline pants with a base layer underneath. Whether you want to use synthetic or merino, it's up to you, whatever you decide. And then I had a merino base layer. I had a medium core hoodie. And then I had a puffy coat, we call it. They're really a Calvin Light hoodie. And then the outside is always a windstopper garment. And that is my Jetstream jacket. So that is definitely my go-to uniform. Randy Barnhart, does camo really have to match to break your outline? It doesn't necessarily have to match, but it has to do something that causes the animal. You got to think, there's a lot of science out there about how animals see things. Their rods and cones are different than human. So a lot of times camouflage is made to attract the hunter in the store. Oh, wow, that looks like a whatever pattern. Looks like some sort of leaf or some sort of grass. Okay. That's not necessarily how ungulates see it. That's why you see a lot of the companies with a digital clothing pattern, because all of the research has been done that a digital type pattern is breaking your outline better than these blotchy vegetation type patterns. So that's really the whole idea behind it. And for me, I just would use a digital pattern, at least for the things that I do. Randy, you hunt Wyoming antelope a lot, but why not eastern Montana? Not that I want the competition. I've drawn one Montana pronghorn tag in the last 6 years, and that was up by Helena. So, not that I don't want to come hunting out there in eastern Montana. I just, for whatever reason, haven't been able to pull the tag. So, let's see. Would bulls screaming in the early morning in mid-October still be due to rutting activity or just excited about fresh snow? It would be about rutting activity. They don't, they're not like us where they're going to waste a lot of time based on something pleasure. They're rutting and going to exert that energy for one reason, rut. So, let's see. Dan, it says we did our hour on Instagram. We're done. Instagram is down the tubes. Let's see. Okay. All right. We're just about out of questions here. Have I ever hunted in Jawbridge, Nevada? Yep, I have. What a beautiful place. Absolutely beautiful place. Oh, Chris asks, when do we get your wife Kim's lasagna recipe? I'll have to ask her. I'm not sure when we get that. Let's see. Using OnX, if a road passes through private, you can still travel it, right? Not necessarily. They take the road data from the agencies. And a lot of the agencies will show every road, whether it's a public road or a private road. So there is no guarantee that just because you see it on a map, you can travel it. Any idea why Nevada keeps on limiting non-resident tags? It's getting worse. Well, Cole, the reason is because Nevada is suffering serious habitat pressures. You've got competition from feral horses. People call them wild horses. I don't. I call them feral horses. They're a feral species. They have competition of drought, long-term drought, whatever you want to call it. We're talking 30 years of excessive drought in Nevada. We have invasive species like cheatgrass. We have encroachment of pinyon and juniper. All of that sucks water, surface water, off that wildlife uses. So now there's no more surface water. All these things affect the habitat and it affects the wildlife. And as a result, Nevada's just got to be really conservative with their tags because they're already in marginal habitat. And then you put all those pressures on that marginal habitat and it's tough. Yeah. How do you keep your water in your pack from freezing in the very cold late season hunts? I have a bladder that I put right up against my back and then usually have a puffy coat behind it. And the bladder itself won't freeze, the tube will. And so anymore, I'm done with the tubes. I have this new thing called the Be Free from Catadine. And with that, I can just put it in my pack, and there's usually enough warmth in there that water will not freeze. I've hunted a few times when it's froze, but usually not. Randy, where was your most recent elk hunt in Colorado? It was 2016, and I hunted over by Montrose. If you were looking for a trophy antelope, would you choose central or eastern Wyoming? I'd choose central Wyoming. If you look at the Boone and Crockett record books, the central counties like Natrona, Fremont, they have way more Boone and Crockett entries than the eastern counties like Campbell and Crook and a few of those other counties. I think it's Crook County over there. So you'll see way more entries. If you were looking for a big one, I'd say central versus eastern. What are the bull elk's needs right now in southwest Montana with all this current heat? Sanctuary, sanctuary, sanctuary. Get away from all the hunting pressure that we all saw last weekend. It's intense. Oh, we got time for one really good last one. What do we got? All right, here's one. Randy, what does the rest of the year look like for you and the crew? What does it look like, Dan? Next week, we got the Gerber guys coming to Montana, so we're going elk hunting with the folks from Gerber. And then the week after that, Dan and I are going right here out of Bozeman. We'll be chasing elk. No, well, you'll be shooting any elk because I plan to fill my tag next week. And I have a deer tag in the Bridger Mountains just north of Bozeman. And then the remainder of the year, we have some Wyoming elk. We have archery Colorado mule deer. Marcus and Wade are going to be in Arizona for Coues deer in December. And then I've got some promotion and other stuff that has me traveling to trade shows in December. And then, let's see, in January, we'll be down in Arizona doing our Sonoran Safari, I call it. It's archery javelina, archery Coues deer, waterfowl, not archery obviously, shotgun for waterfowl, jackrabbits, cottontails, Mearns quail, anything that, it is so much fun. Why everybody does not spend the first half of January down in Arizona is beyond me, but I'm going to be there all the time, every year. Until they put me in the ground, I'm going to be in southern Arizona or eastern Arizona chasing critters in January. So anyhow, folks, thanks for watching. Not sure if we'll have a connection to do it next week, but hopefully the following week for sure. Appreciate all of you who take the time to ask the questions and give the input.